Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee on this Thursday, and we're getting very close to a very long holiday weekend. I know a lot of you probably are going to start it, maybe even leaving late today. But if you're creative, you took Friday off, you took Monday off, you got Tuesday off. For the most part, you got a 5-day weekend there, all planned out. And I'm going to try to keep the weather as tame as possible through this period for certainly the area I forecast for specifically, which is New York City, New Jersey, Long Island, Connecticut, Hudson Valley, and eastern Pennsylvania. This severe weather outlook for today showing a large area of slight risk running across the central plains into the middle Mississippi Valley to the western lakes. So you can see the marginal risk extends from the Rockies all the way east into western New York and northwestern Pennsylvania. Now, going into the next couple of days, tomorrow, the Storm Prediction Center is predicting a northeast southwest band of a risk of severe weather with 2 areas of slight risk and 1 area of enhanced risk. A slight risk in southern Michigan and northernmost Ohio and Indiana into western New York, and the slight risk to the west and much of the southern Missouri, southeastern Kansas, and the northeastern third of Oklahoma, with a band of enhanced risk inside that. And if we go to the next day, which is Saturday, we're going to have a marginal risk running from North Texas on up through the Ohio Valley and into Pennsylvania, northwest New Jersey, through New York State and into western New England. And I imagine that this could also wind up having a slight risk area added to it when we get a little bit closer. Let's look at what's going on just real quick this morning on the radar. You can see the busy areas. Warm, humid air is beginning to come into the northeast. So ahead of it, you've got a bit of a warm front that's producing rain in upstate New York and up in north of Lake Ontario. That's moving northeastward into New England. And you've got some strong thunderstorms going on in parts of northern Missouri and into northeastern Kansas. And we also have some showers and storms down in the central Gulf Coast, but not much action going on in the west other than some scattered activity, which is not a big surprise. Satellite view this morning. Here's that leading edge of that warmer air, and you can see it south and west of the cloud line. It's partly to mostly sunny. So in areas in the northeast where there's cloud cover around this morning, we'll probably break out into some sunshine. See the severe weather flare up moving into the upper Mississippi Valley. You got this area down in the Gulf states, but the satellite really has that signature for late June. And in the west, as we approach sunrise, we're seeing, the usual array of morning low clouds up and down the west coast. But other than that, really not too much happening here as we move forward into the rest of the week and into the weekend. Now, I'm going to, first off, you know what, let's keep this consistent. I'm going to come back to this because I want to talk about the tropics a little bit today. But first, why don't we just take a look at where we're going weather-wise this weekend overall. We'll start in the eastern U.S. and with this high now off the mid-Atlantic coast, we're going to get into this southwest flow, so it's going to turn very warm to hot. This is not like the setup that we had a couple of weeks ago and the one back in May where we saw temperatures climb up to middle and upper 90s. And even the odd 100-degree reading that popped up at LaGuardia, which I have my doubts on. But anyway, this flow is more southwest. And for the coastal areas in southern New England, it's more south-southwest. So that's going to keep temperatures from getting too high. I think they'll approach upper 80s to around or just over 90, or maybe even a few low 90s in inland areas. But you get closer to the coast and that ocean component starts to play a role. It will keep the temperatures down just a bit. Also, the other 2 3-day heat waves we had were with a west wind, and that's a straight land wind that just heats up as the parcels of air get carried eastward and they downslope from some of the mountainous terrain, semi-mountainous terrain that we have in Pennsylvania and upstate New York. That air warms up That's not the case this time around, with the flow more coming up along the coastal plain. That's a very warm and a very humid flow, but it's not necessarily a very hot flow. And we're going to start to introduce the chance for some scattered thunderstorms beginning late Friday afternoon. Not everybody will see them. And then again, late Saturday. Now, the GFS is kind of wanting to swing this cold front through just a little bit faster, uh, as opposed to getting it through here later on Sunday. It looks like it may want to come through a little faster than that. So this would suggest to me that that maybe Saturday night might wind up being the night or the time frame where you'll get perhaps more numerous showers and thunderstorms developing, and then that moves out. And while it still might be somewhat humid on Sunday, there's a little secondary push here that's coming through. And I think that that'll probably mean for rather warm conditions for Monday and Tuesday, but it might also be a shade less humid. There's also another little disturbance being indicated here for late Monday that might produce a shower or storm. I don't know how real that is, and much of this falls apart after Monday evening. So I guess we have to throw in the chance that there could be a shower or thunderstorm late Monday. I was not originally not doing that, but I guess that I may just throw it in. And then on Tuesday, as this high builds in from the Great Lakes, it looks like a pretty decent 4th of July, maybe getting into some more showers as we go to later Wednesday and for Thursday. And out in the west, we are going to be pretty much in a, summer mode, not much going on. The entire area west of the Rockies is just, typical and quiet. You go east of the Rockies, you start to get into some showers and thunderstorms in the central and southern plains. We showed you that area of risk for severe weather, but it's pretty much status quo here. So I want to look at the tropics because the GFS model, which was very good with showing the development of Cindy, and particularly showing the development with Tropical Storm Brett that formed in the far eastern Atlantic. And by the way, I went back and looked at the history last night, and it seems that Brett may have been the first storm to form at that latitude this time of year since 1851. So that's a very important thing, because I think it may be signaling the fact that the tropical Atlantic may wind up getting active early. And indeed, when we look ahead, I'm going to just show you, there's been a few runs of the GFS that have done this. Now, it's still early in the game. Here we are, the beginning of next week. There's a bit of a low south of the Cabo Verde Islands along 10 degrees north, and several runs of the GFS have attempted to spin this low up as it moves west-northwestward and north of the islands. And you can see it there. Now, again, at this point, we are now at day 13 in the long range, but so we have to really look at this with a bit of skepticism. But it's a few runs that have done this, but it might be signaling greater activity going on in the tropical Atlantic. Might start up maybe in mid-July, early to mid-July, as opposed to saying late July and early August. So, I think we're going to want to keep an eye on this and see what happens. One of the things that I'm noticing, I'm going to I want to show you the upper air environment with respect to wind shear. Okay, strong winds in the upper atmosphere, that's a condition that hurricanes do not like. Or actually, let me rephrase that, tropical waves moving into those high shear environments don't develop because of the fact that the strong winds in the upper atmosphere rip the tops of the thunderstorms off. On the water vapor imagery, you can see what's going on. We've got this big upper air storm out in the central Atlantic and another one to the east of that. They're starting to this one's weakening a bit. And over the last several days, one of the things I've noticed is the area of dry air that's been covering the tropical Atlantic has begun to shrink. And we also have, it looks like the atmosphere is saturating somewhat in the central and eastern Atlantic, so it might be getting ready for one of those waves about to come off. And you can kind of see the brighter white clouds on the edge here. This picture doesn't go out to the African coast, but you can see that the atmosphere is moistening up far to the east. So this could be, again, a sign that maybe the tropical activity may increase. And with respect to development, these upper lows to the north, as long as they continue to kind of migrate a little further north, or at least don't drop southward, that will lessen the wind shear environment. If you look at this system here in the northern leewards, you can see how the cloud tops are getting blown away to the northeast. So this tropical wave or upper trough really doesn't stand any chance of development. So we're going to watch this closely. And if you look on this particular map, what it's showing you is the wind shear, that going up from about 5,000 feet all the way up to 25,000 feet. And in the areas in the blue and in the white, those are areas of very light winds in the upper atmosphere. You can see here from 0 to 20 knots. So when you get a light wind shear environment, tropical waves kind of like that. And as we move through time into next week, you'll notice that the area of light wind shear in the tropical Atlantic is rather extensive. And here's the wave that's moving along inside that light shear environment. So let's see how the models play out. The European has some hints of this too, although it is a little bit further south. Oddly enough, the Canadian model, which usually likes to spin up everything in its path, hasn't seemed to have gotten that message yet, and it's not doing anything other than showing, little L's, little lows in a few spots, but it doesn't really develop anything. I want to pay attention to the GFS, if only because of the fact that it was very good in spinning up the system in the tropical Atlantic with the tropical storm Brett, and it also did a fair job spinning up the system in the long range with tropical storm Cindy. So let's, going forward, let's see how the tropics evolve. Right now, there's nothing out there that poses a threat of becoming a tropical storm anytime soon. Okay, so you know what? We got a little bit of time today. Let's throw the upper air up, the jet stream pattern, and then we'll call it a day. One of the things that I've said this a number of times in the last few weeks. We've had this tendency for this deep, troughing in the eastern part of the United States. It seems to be there more often than not. We go into a ridge position here for the very warm and humid conditions that we're about to have, but you can already, the next system's already knocking on the door, swinging across eastern Canada for early next week. And then after that, there is a tendency again for troughing in the long term in the eastern part of the United States. You could see it here. So, one of the things that we want to pay attention to is that, if we wind up with some kind of a trough in the east at the same time that the tropics are getting active, that's where, it may become problematic for the East Coast. I'm not saying that this is the case. I'm just illustrating it here. So let me be clear. I'm not predicting anything here. I'm just illustrating the fact that with the presence of troughing in the east, depending on how it sets up, if you were to get a tropical system that times out, and it would have to time out perfectly in order for something to happen, this is a possibility. Certainly, it wouldn't be a consideration if we were in, some sort of a ridge position, because that would deflect everything further west. If we had an upper high sitting in the east instead, and the trough out here somewhere, any tropical systems would want to go in this direction, and that doesn't seem to be the case. And by the same token, if the trough were, say, further to the east, if we had the trough, say, somewhere out here, that would likely keep tropical weather systems either out to sea, or if they miss the trough entirely, they might wind up going further west. So that tendency for troughing in the east, I think, needs to be watched a little more carefully as we move deeper into the tropical storm season. Okay, folks, have a great day. If you're early getawaying for the holiday weekend, enjoy, and be sure to check back in, because I'll be updating the weather all weekend and early next week. I never have a day off. You can keep up with my local forecasts on my weather app. You can download that on iTunes or on Google Play and subscribe to my forecasts. You can get the links on my website, by the way, to that, or my Facebook page. Just click the Use App button. Meteorologist Joe Chaffee on Facebook, meteorologistjoechaffee.com on my website. And of course, Angry Ben has New York City covered on nycweathernow.com. And thank you very much for being here on my YouTube channel. Appreciate it greatly. And I say that every day, and that's because I mean it every day. I love the fact that you guys are here and participating in the conversation. I know it's been a little quiet lately, but sooner or later the weather will pick up and we'll start gabbing again. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.